Françoise, Gaill, since the lockdown has been announced, we have heard a lot about animals coming back to mountains, fields, coastlines, even cities, but less about what was happening in the oceans, offshore. How has marine wildlife reacted since the beginning of the quarantine?
So it's quite difficult because for the ocean you cannot see what is occurring under the sea surface. But we have some good news. For example, far away from French coast, but also Spain one and Portuguese, we have seen some animals which were not present before. And these animals are dolphin, for example, whales, and it's quite interesting to see that there is a type of resilience in the marine ecosystems, which allow us to discover that when we reduce all the greenhouse gas, we may have some consequence on the marine ecosystem, and it's very hopeful news. For example, another impact of this situation is the fact that in Venice, the water is clarified by the light now, and we are able to see at the bottom all the algae, all the plants, and all the animals which are moving on this area, like crustacea, like crabs, for example. And it's also very interesting because Venice is not known for having a lot of marine animals.
According to you, what kind of risks would the planet and the oceans be exposed to if after the crisis we choose to start again as before?
If we do not change anything, it's obvious that the temperature of the ocean will increase. This temperature, since the last century with the industries, is elevating, and we have the idea that such temperature increase will have some consequence on the quality of the seawater. For example, the oxygen of the seawater will decrease, and we will have a lot of what we said anoxic zone. This anoxic zone have been observed to be more numerous since the last decade, and also larger when we consider the surface. And such anoxic zone will induce the death of all the animals crossing this zone. But for example, we will have also other consequences, and it's demonstrated that the correlation between the temperature of the water and the increase of some Vibrio bacteria, which are pathogens, will be also a dangerous question we will have to face.
At the end of the crisis, what do you think are the main challenges we should work on to protect our oceans and thus our planet? Françoise Gaill.
Okay, I think that we have to introduce the ecosystemic vision in our way of considering the economy, considering the social relationships, and so on. It means also to introduce, with the kids, for example, ocean literacy. What we call ocean literacy, it's the way of thinking the world with ocean. But it means to learn something also looking at the ocean, looking at the interaction between the species, looking at the complexity of this environment, and looking also to the way in which our action to put something in a river will conduct to the sea and to the ocean. So everything is linked. I think also that we have to take care of the fact that we do not have to give fundings to non-ecological actions.